What do you think the Phillies have to do to win the World Series this year?
I think they need to be consistent. I think a lot of their issues have been falling off with the bats or with the bullpen, and they haven't been able to just put together a congruent series. I mean, you look at the Diamondback series last year, you're up 2-0, you lose them on the road. You had 2 games at home, and you couldn't do it. You look at the World Series, you got no hit at home. You can't have those things happen if you're looking to be a championship team. And I think this year it really comes down to that. These players have now been through the hardships. They've been through a loss of a World Series. They've been through an upset last year to go to the World Series. They would have won the World Series. They were not losing to the Rangers. And now they have this year where it's, okay, you had those 2, you put it together, and now this is your year. It's this year or bust.
I completely agree with you. I think the thing that, to me, is going to put them over the hump is I think this bye is very crucial for the Phillies. I think that having that time for the bullpen, the starters, to get that rest that's very needed, I think it could possibly be an issue for the bats. But I think that the biggest issue for our team last year and that Diamondback series before the bats went stagnant was the bullpen just was shot. You had Kimbrel, who his arm was falling off. You had a young Ryan Kirkering in his first postseason games just couldn't throw a baseball anymore. And I think that having this bye allows everyone to recuperate. They don't have to have that stress of a wild card series. I know last year they had the extra day because they swept the Marlins, but I think that bye is so important for our team. You allow some of those people like Harper is still dealing with that partial injury. It allows him to get that off time. I think it's very important I think this is very important for the Phillies. I think that a team like the Braves, it hurt them last year. It hurt them last year and the year before that. But I think that this is very important for the Phillies. When they locked that down, I thought, wow, this is our year.
I like the fact that we're going to be home. I think it's good for our players, given they're very family-oriented. Give them this time with their family, get their heads right. I think they come in and they're ready to play. I don't think this is a mess-around kind of team. I think Harper, he knows he needs a ring. You have Schwarber, Castellanos, JT, all at the ends of their careers. Again, Schwarber has his rings, but these other players looking to just round out their career, and they know that this is the do-or-die situation for them. I think they have to come in with that mentality, and I don't think you give playing time to these bad players who aren't going to contribute to your team. And I think looking at the outfield, that's a huge part of that. I think you really need to figure out, are you going to start defensive? Are you going to start offensive? Are you going to then make your substitutions? I think all that needs to be known prior to the game, just to know how to go about it. And I think same with the rotation. Are you going to lead off with Wheeler? Or are you going to go to Nola? Or are you going to go to Ranger? Or Sanchez now? Who is your rotation going to be? Who's going to be a bullpen arm if needed? I think you need to set it up that way if it comes down to an elimination game. Are you going to Wheeler? Are you going to Nola? Are you going to Sanchez? Those are the things that need to be known. I know even the Braves today, with Chris Sale, they were going to play him in that last game if needed. He ended up back spasm. Not too sure about that. But I think it's things like this that you need to get under wraps now so that when they come to you, you're not lost, and it's not Rob Thompson having to make a split decision. It's this was our game plan coming into the series, and this is how we're going to execute.
I agree. I think the rotation should go Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola. I know a lot of people probably don't agree with that. I like the righty, lefty, righty. I think it makes the team have to split up their bats a little bit because it kind of breaks that up where you can't get hot 2 games in a row. Let's say you're better against righties, you have to now, and you can't hit lefties. You now have to come out of the game, and I think that's crucial. I think Sanchez has proven that he can be a number 2 starter, and I worry with Nola. I think he's very. I can pitch 9 innings of no-hit baseball, and then I can let up 7 runs in 3 innings. So I know that Nola can eat a lot of innings too. He can get you far, but I think that it goes Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola, and I think you use Ranger as 4 innings max. I think you keep him as that possibility where if you are in that elimination game, like CJ brought up, where you can put him in at the 7th inning to get you 3 outs. I think he's proven that he has that ability to get those outs in situations where you need him to, and I think keeping him at a 4 or 5 inning max, maybe put him on a little bit of a pitch count, would really benefit this team because that's another bullpen arm too. And like I said, that was kind of an issue last year too. I think that's very important for this team.
I just don't want this game to come down to Rob Thompson having to make a decision because that has cost them in previous years. Also, don't be afraid to switch up the lineup. That's also hurt them. If bats are getting cold, move them around. Don't wait for that to connect. I know there's certain players like Castellanos who he never took out and just let him get his stuff together. But now we're talking postseason, and you only need to win 2 series to win the World Series.
3.
Or 2 to go to the World Series.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that wild card right now. So it's go in and do what works. Don't try and get fancy. Don't try and be cute with the team. Just go in, do what works, and get to the World Series.
I would like to point out, I know you mentioned this earlier, I meant to get to this point. Do you think that they still continue with benching Stada versus lefties and benching Marsh versus lefties and benching Rojas versus righties. Do you think they continue that, or is that going to be too much inconsistency in the lineup where you're kind of having players go hot and cold, hot and cold?
Yeah, I don't like the platooning in the playoffs, just given the hot and cold. I know, you'll have day games, night games, so that kind of switches up. And, I never want to see JT out of this lineup. Garrett Stubbs should not be playing. I know they were doing the Sosa Stott. Again, if you're scared of Stott's bat, start Sosa and put in Stott if you're doing defensive altercations. But I don't think you can have that in and out, in and out. And again, I think, even with the Rojas, you have these defensive players, but don't start them if that's all they're good for, because you're just hurting your lineup. Again, if the lineup is playing well, though, maybe then, okay, you just have some guaranteed outs, but I don't know. That's risky in a playoff game.
I think that you have to start Stott regardless. I think his glove is too good, and I think he has that a bit. I think there's got to be a time this year where he clicks. I think it's too unrealistic to think that Bryson Stott is not going to get hot at all. He's been bad all year, and I think he's.
His moment's coming.
I need it to happen because it's just scaring me too much.
Who is your outfield?
I would go, because Hayes isn't even playing now.
Nope. You got to go Marsh, Rojas, Nick.
Yeah, and then against lefties, I'd put Stevenson. Or righties, I'd put Stevenson over.
I like Cody, too.
Oh, Cody could put him left. Yeah, I'd probably go Cody, Marsh.
I wouldn't play
Costas.
Marsh.
Marsh has the experience and has come up big in the playoffs. He has moments in the playoffs where I think that puts him over Cody Clemens, where Cody Clemens hasn't played in the playoffs.
It's going to be tough because, again, it's going to be Marsh, Rojas, Nick, but how are they going to use those other players? Like, you have a Cal Stevenson, you have a Cody Clemens who are great off the bench, but when do you use those players?
I think you use them in, and I don't like this at all, but I think you use them in those 8th, 9th inning when Rojas comes up to bat against the righty. You're like, wow, I got to put...
That's putting so much pressure on these players.
Exactly.
You come up and get one at bat.
Exactly, and it's like...
In the craziest atmosphere of your career, and it's on you on one at bat.
I mean, Matt Stairs did it, but...
They're not all built like that.
I think against the righty, I'd like to see Cody Clemens in there over Rojas. I don't think Rojas' bat is like... I don't think his glove is good enough to excuse putting him in against like a killer righty. I think he's just going to get cooked. At least Cody Clemens has pop. Pop can change a game like that. You're in a close game. A home run can kind of silence everything. That's momentum.
Would you ever consider DHing Harper or Bohm and then putting Schwarber out in left field?
No. He is way too much of a defensive liability. Like I said, I don't care about the Rojas defense. Kyle Schwarber's defensive play is such a liability.
That allows you to give another infielder a chance. Like, you could put it in Edmundo, you could put it in Cody.
I don't care. I'd put Cody in left, put Rojas or Sosa in left, put anyone in left, just not Kyle Schwarber.
Okay.
You know who do not put Taijuan Walker in at all. If Taijuan Walker touches the field, I'm done.
Rob Thompson should be investigated if he touches the field, because there's something that he's hiding. Who do you think the biggest competition would be to the Phillies in the playoffs?
I think it's the Dodgers. I genuinely think it's the Dodgers. Their pitching isn't great, but I think there's so much talent on that team, and that's the one series in the NL that you have to go on the road, which it would just scare me. The Dodgers are the only team in baseball that scares me when we play them. Even the Braves. The Braves own us, and we actually don't do bad against the Dodgers either. Like we kind of split series and everything, but they just scare me on paper, and I think that would be something that like the Phillies play into, and that would scare me. That's the only team. Like I think the Braves, there's a history of us beating them. I would be scared to play the Braves just because there's got to be one time where we can't beat the Braves. Like I don't think you can just keep going, win Braves, beat Braves, beat Braves, beat Braves. Mets don't scare me too much because I think they're kind of that.
Mets scare me.
They only, but like everyone's got like a reason to scare me. Like the Mets kind of remind me of that Phillies team that just kind of snuck into the playoffs. And then could possibly go on that run, but I don't see them beating us. Padres don't really scare me that much. Brewers worry me just because they're pitching.
Brewers scare me a lot.
And they got some
streaky
pop.
Bats.
Yeah.
Willie Adames can.
Rhys Hoskins hitting a bat spot. Could you imagine? That would.
Honestly, good for him.
That might actually make me cry.
You got Adames. You got Terang. You got You got Reese. You
Yeah,
got
there's-
William Contreras.
Yeah.
You have a solid pitching staff. That team really scares me.
I'm not gonna lie. These teams all could scare me. I can't.
I'm not scared of the Braves, except for the fact that we beat them the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I feel like we're due. Diamondbacks do not scare me whatsoever.
No team in the AL
Dodgers
scares me at
don't
all.
scare me the way that you would think. I think they can look at us as a big league, and I don't think they would overlook us. Or they might overlook us, but I think they're still scared of us. And
Yeah.
I think we could use that to an advantage. Also, the Dodgers crowd is completely different than what they would face here in a Red October.
That's very true too. They really haven't. They haven't been here since. They have to get by whoever they play. They have to prove to their fans that they can do this.
Padres, I just forgot about them. They kind of scare me. As
I
well.
want the Padres to play the Dodgers and get them out.
That's what they did last year.
Exactly. Well, not the
Yeah.
Padres didn't make it last year.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers.
Right.
No team in the AL scares me except Houston, just because they have that like.
No, I think we walk through the World Series whoever we play.
I wouldn't say walk because I think that's way too cocky.
Who scares you in the AL?
Like I said, no one. But I also said that there's no shot we
Like
lose to the
Yankees
Diamondbacks.
might be one and done.
I said that we wouldn't lose to the Diamondbacks, and we did. I said we wouldn't lose to the Astros, and we did. I'm not gonna sit here and say that there's nobody we would lose to,
No, because this is our year. Nobody's beat us.
but I think the only team that scares me is the Astros. But that's just because they're the Astros. Like they have that fear factor.
Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Tailgate with the Tullies. We'll be back next week with a new episode and more content.